The sound echoed like a gunshot through the marble atrium. Skin meeting skin, the crack of a palm against a cheek. Security footage timestamp blinked in the corner. 2:47 p.m. The woman's head snapped sideways, her hand instinctively moving to cradle her 7-month pregnant belly. Around her, designer handbags frozen on glass shelves seemed to hold their breath. Price tags dangled. $50,000, $73,000, $120,000. People like you, the store manager hissed, don't belong in establishments like this. Phones emerged from pockets and purses, some recording, others turning away pretending they'd seen nothing. The pregnant woman's wrist monitor flashed red, blood pressure spiking into dangerous territory. She didn't cry out, didn't raise her voice, just stood there, one hand on her belly, the other touching her reddening cheek. Have you ever been judged before you opened your mouth? Before you stated your name, showed your credentials, proved your worth? These black stories, these real-life stories where dignity gets stripped in 60 seconds, they happen every day. What happens next will restore your faith in quiet power. 12 minutes earlier, Maison Étoile's Manhattan flagship occupied 3 floors of prime Fifth Avenue real estate. The building generated $890 million in annual revenue, a temple to luxury where even the door handles cost more than most cars. Crystal chandeliers refracted afternoon light into 1,000 rainbows across Italian marble floors. Amara stepped through the revolving door at 2:35 p.m., her worn leather portfolio tucked under one arm. Her maternity dress was simple cotton, comfortable flats cushioning swollen feet. No jewelry except a medical alert bracelet and a modest wedding band. The first-class boarding pass edge peeked from her bag. Emirates JFK to Milan, departing at 6 p.m. She had time. Manager Diane Pritchard noticed her immediately. 15 years at Maison Étoile had taught Diane to assess customers in seconds. This woman didn't fit the algorithm. Wrong demographic, wrong presentation, wrong everything. Diane's eyes performed their usual calculation. Dress off the rack, maybe $60, shoes, discount brand, pregnant, which meant probable financial stress. The unspoken store policy whispered in her ear, curate the clientele. A young sales associate named Jessica approached Amara with a tentative smile. Good afternoon, welcome to... Diane's look cut her off mid-sentence, a slight head shake. Jessica's smile faltered. She retreated to the register, busying herself with invisible tasks. Diane took over, her professional mask firmly in place. May I help you find something? The words were correct, but the tone carried an edge, a question mark that implied, are you sure you're in the right place? I'm looking for a gift, Amara said quietly. The Celestia necklace, for my anniversary. Diane's eyebrow arched. The Celestia collection occupied the private viewing room. Pieces that required appointments, background checks, insurance verification. That particular piece is $127,000. She paused, letting the number hang in the air. Perhaps I can show you our more accessible collection? We have lovely items downstairs starting at $3,000. The Celestia necklace, please. Diane's jaw tightened. She positioned herself between Amara and the display cases, arms crossing over her chest. Her voice rose slightly, not quite shouting, but performing now for the other customers browsing nearby. 3 white women examining scarves, 2 Asian couples studying watch displays, all of them beginning to notice. Ma'am, I'll need to see payment capability before I handle that inventory. Store policy. Amara's expression didn't change. Is that policy applied to everyone? Everyone who... Diane caught herself, recalibrated. Everyone making high-value inquiries. Yes. A teenage girl near the entrance pulled out her phone. The TikTok app opened. Caption typed quickly. Luxury store discrimination caught live. She angled the camera, hit record. I'd like to speak with your corporate liaison, Amara said. Diane's face hardened. I am the authority here. I've been with this company for 15 years. I know exactly... Amara reached into her portfolio. Diane's hand shot to the security button beneath the counter. Twice. Fast. Her mind had already written the narrative. Attempted theft, became aggressive when confronted, had to call for help. The story was ready before the facts existed. 2 security guards arrived within 90 seconds. both male, one white, one black. The black guard, Marcus, early 30s, ex-military bearing, immediately clocked something in Amara's stillness. The way she stood, hand protective over her belly, eyes calm and fixed on Diane. No panic, no guilt, just waiting. This woman became aggressive when I explained our verification process, Diane announced. Her voice carried the practiced authority of someone accustomed to being believed. She reached into her bag in a threatening manner. The live stream viewer count ticked upward, 847, comments flooding. Here we go again. Why is she being harassed? Probably can't afford it anyway, Lowell. Marcus hesitated. Something felt wrong. Amara's posture, her breathing, none of it matched Diane's narrative. Ma'am, can you show us what's in your bag? He asked, his tone careful. Amara's phone vibrated. The screen lit up. V, calling. She declined without breaking eye contact with Diane. Before anyone touches me, Amara said, her voice quiet but surgical, you should know I'm documenting medical vitals in real time. My lawyers will find pregnancy endangerment. Clarifying. The legal precision landed like a slap. Diane blinked. Marcus's hand, which had been moving toward Amara's arm, stopped midair. From the portfolio, Amara extracted a business card. Simple, expensive stock. Just a name. Amara Volkov. Marcus's face changed. A flicker of recognition he quickly masked. Diane didn't notice. She was too focused on maintaining control. Threatening legal action? Diane laughed, sharp and brittle. Classic. You people always... You people, Amara interrupted softly. Diane's face flushed. I didn't... That's not... You're twisting my words. The timestamp read 2:53 p.m. 7 minutes until Amara's scheduled pickup. The live stream had grown, 2,300 viewers now. The mall's security director, Luis Mendez, appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. He was reviewing camera footage, his expression growing increasingly concerned. Diane didn't see him. She was spiraling now, frustration overriding judgment. This woman, this nobody, was making her look foolish in her own store, in front of customers, in front of staff. The disrespect of it, the audacity. Amara turned slightly toward the exit, preparing to leave. She'd documented enough. The data was clear. Diane interpreted the movement as smugness, as victory, as this woman thinking she'd won something. That's when Diane's control snapped. Her hand came up fast, open-palmed, catching Amara across the cheek. The sound was sharp, definitive. The store seemed to inhale as one. Amara's head turned with the blow. She didn't stumble, didn't cry out. Her hand went to her face, then immediately to her belly. The medical monitor on her wrist began beeping. Blood pressure 142/95, heart rate 108. Dangerous for someone 7 months pregnant. The teenage live streamer gasped audibly. Her phone camera refocused, zoomed. Viewer count, 2,300 becoming 3,100, becoming 4,600. You saw that, Diane said to the guards, her voice desperate now. She turned toward me aggressively. I defended myself. You saw it. But the cameras had seen everything. Luis Mendez's tablet showed all of it. The unprovoked strike, Diane's escalating aggression, Amara's complete stillness. A patrol car pulled to the curb outside, 2:58 p.m. 2 NYPD officers entered, routine response to the security call Diane had made 3 minutes earlier. Diane rushed toward them. Officers, thank God. This woman attempted theft, became violent when I confronted her. I had to defend myself. Ma'am, I need you to step back, the lead officer said. He looked at Amara, at her reddening cheek, her pregnant belly, her calm eyes. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention? I'm documenting vitals, Amara said. She handed him her driver's license, her credit card, a black Amex Centurion, and her medical ID bracelet. My name is Amara Volkov. You have 90 seconds before this becomes significantly more complicated for everyone involved. The officer read the license, paused, looked at his partner. Mrs. Volkov? Something in his tone had shifted. Diane, impatient, nearly shouting now, that's probably fake. Run it, run everything. She's clearly... I suggest, Amara said quietly, you check whose property you're standing in. The officer's radio crackled. He stepped away, spoke in low tones, came back with a different expression entirely. Outside, 3 black Cadillac Escalades glided to the curb in perfect formation. The timestamp read 3 p.m. The SUVs didn't belong to NYPD. That much was immediately clear. 5 men emerged in synchronized precision, tailored suits, earpieces, movements that spoke of military training and serious money. The lead figure stood 6'4", Eastern European features carved from granite. Victor. He moved through the store entrance like he owned it, because technically he did. Mrs. Volkov. His accent was slight, controlled. We received your biometric alert. Your heart rate spiked to dangerous levels. He glanced at the wrist monitor, then at her reddening cheek, his jaw tightening. Mr. Volkov is en route from the Tribeca office. Shall we transport you to Dr. Reeves immediately? Diane laughed, a high, nervous sound. This is absurd. Who are these people? Officers, are you seeing this? Victor didn't acknowledge her existence. His attention remained fixed on Amara. Mrs. Volkov? Not yet, Amara said. Her hand still rested protectively on her belly, but her voice remained steady. I'd like to complete my purchase first, the Celestia necklace. Now, please. Diane's face flushed crimson. I've refused service. This is private property. You need to leave. The NYPD officer stepped forward, his tone careful. Ma'am, perhaps we should all just... Officer, are you going to do your job or not? Diane's voice cracked slightly. The control she'd wielded so confidently 15 minutes ago was crumbling. This woman assaulted me. She has these thugs intimidating me in my own store. I want her arrested. Now! The officer's radio crackled again. Another message. He listened, his expression shifting from neutral to distinctly uncomfortable. He exchanged glances with his partner. Both took a subtle step backward. Ma'am, we're going to need to review the security footage. The store phone rang. The assistant manager, Gabriella, answered. Her brown skin went ashen. It's corporate. The CEO. For you, Diane. He says it's urgent. Diane snatched the phone, her confidence returning. Corporate would back her. 15 years of loyalty, of driving sales, of maintaining the brand's exclusivity. They'd understand. Sir, I'm handling a situation here. A customer became violent and... The voice on the other end was loud enough that people nearby could hear fragments. Do you have any idea who you just owns the building? Diane's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, denial. That's impossible. She looks like what, Diane? The CEO's voice crackled through the speaker. Finish that sentence, please. I'd love to hear you finish that sentence. The line went dead. Silence spread through the store like spilled ink. The 3 women who'd been examining scarves stood frozen. The couples by the watch display had stopped pretending not to watch. Everyone's attention was locked on Diane, on Amara, on the security team flanking the pregnant woman like she was visiting royalty. Luis Mendez finally spoke, his voice gentle but firm. Diane, I need you to step away from the floor now. There's been a misunderstanding. Diane. Luis held up his tablet. The security footage was queued to 12 minutes earlier. I've been watching all of it. Step away. The teenage live streamer's viewer count had exploded. 8,400 people watching in real time. The comment section scrolled too fast to read. 3 local news outlets had already reached out for permission to use the footage. Diane looked around wildly, seeking allies. Jessica wouldn't meet her eyes. Marcus, the security guard, had positioned himself slightly between Diane and Amara. Protection detail, not enforcement. Even the customers were watching her with expressions ranging from pity to disgust. I want to see a lawyer, Diane said. That can be arranged, Amara replied. She turned to Victor. Please retrieve all security footage from the last 15 minutes. Every camera angle, I want it preserved and copied. Gabriella already had a tablet ready, hands trembling. She pulled up the store's security system. The promotional screens that usually displayed product advertisements now showed the footage. Diane's dismissive body language, the escalating aggression, the fabricated narrative about Amara becoming threatening. And then the slap, played at full size on a 60-inch display above the main register. Pause there, please, Amara said. The image froze. Diane's palm connecting with Amara's face, the pregnant woman's body recoiling, her hand moving protectively to her belly. Amara addressed the room, not Diane specifically, but everyone. Her voice never rose above conversational volume, yet every word carried. This isn't a unique story. These life stories happen daily, in stores like this, in restaurants, in hospitals, in schools. Black women in America are 243% more likely to face retail discrimination than white counterparts. That's from a Rutgers University study, 2023. We're followed, questioned, denied service in spaces our money built. She touched her medical bracelet, where the readings still showed elevated blood pressure. Stress-induced hypertension is the leading cause of maternal mortality for Black women. The statistics are clear. We're 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications. Not because of biology, because of stress. Because of moments exactly like this. An elderly Asian woman, Mrs. Chen, a regular customer clutching a Maison Étoile shopping bag, stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I've shopped here for 9 years. How many people have I watched you dismiss, Diane? How many times did I tell myself it wasn't my business?" The live stream comments shifted. "This is powerful. I'm crying. My mom went through this in the 90s. Nothing changed." Jessica, the young sales associate, spoke next. Her voice shook but held. "Diane trained us to assess customers in the first 10 seconds. She called it quality control, but it was code. We all knew what it meant." Diane's mouth opened and closed. No sound emerged. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a fourth vehicle arrived. Not an SUV this time, a black Mercedes S-Class. A man emerged. Late 40s, dark hair graying at the temples, expensive suit that somehow looked lived in. He moved with the kind of confidence that comes from building empires, not inheriting them. Victor straightened slightly. "Mr. Volkov." The man, Victor Volkov presumably, entered the store. His eyes found Amara first, scanning her face, her posture, the medical monitor. Then they shifted to Diane with an expression that could freeze blood. "Is this the woman who struck my wife?" His accent was thicker than his security chief's, Russian vowels bleeding through despite decades in America. Diane tried to speak. "Mr. Volkov, I didn't know." "You didn't know." Victor's voice was soft, which somehow made it more terrifying. "So if she had been someone else, someone without my name, without my resources, this would have been acceptable." He turned to the NYPD officers. "I want her charged, assault, false reporting. Whatever applies to striking a pregnant woman and then lying to police about it." The lead officer nodded slowly. "Sir, we'll need statements from everyone, and the footage. You'll have everything." Victor's attention returned to Diane. "Do you know what this building is worth? $340 million. Do you know what this store generates for Maison Étoile annually? $14 million. Do you know how long your company's lease has remaining?" Diane shook her head mutely. 90 days. As of... He checked his watch. "Approximately 20 minutes ago, when our lawyers filed termination notice, emergency board meeting is happening right now, during your little performance here." A man in an expensive but rumpled suit burst through the entrance. Pierre Montclair, CEO of Maison Étoile North America. His flight from Paris must have been expedited. His face was slick with sweat despite the November chill outside. "Mr. Volkov, Mrs. Volkov, please. 15 years of partnership. This is one employee's terrible judgment, not company policy." Amara finally spoke again. "One employee? I have documentation of systemic patterns across 6 months and 7 locations. Would you like to see it?" Montclair's face went gray. The timestamp read 3:18 p.m., 18 minutes since the slap. The live stream had been shared 12,000 times. Maison Étoile discrimination was beginning to trend. Amara looked at her husband. "I think we should take this somewhere more private. I have a presentation to give." The conference room on Maison Étoile's 3rd floor had probably hosted 1,000 luxury brand meetings, crystal water pitchers, leather chairs, panoramic views of Fifth Avenue. Now it held something different, a reckoning. Amara sat at the head of the table, her laptop open. Victor stood behind her, one hand resting gently on her shoulder. Pierre Montclair sat across from them, flanked by his legal counsel and VP of operations. Luis Mendez had provided the complete security footage. The teenage live streamer, Emma Rodriguez, they'd learned, had agreed to preserve her video as evidence. Diane sat in the corner with a company-appointed attorney, her earlier confidence completely evaporated. "I want to be clear about something," Amara began. Her voice was calm, almost professorial. I wasn't here to shop today. Montclair blinked. I don't understand. Amara turned her laptop so everyone could see the screen. A spreadsheet appeared, detailed, color-coded, comprehensive. For the past 6 months, I've been conducting undercover equity audits across my husband's property portfolio. 12 luxury retailers occupy buildings we own. I visited each location multiple times, dressed differently each visit. She clicked to the next slide. Photographs appeared. Amara in an elegant gown, hair professionally styled, carrying a Birkin bag. The timestamp showed 2 months earlier. The location, this same Maison Étoile store. This was my first visit, Amara said. Designer dress, $8,000, obvious luxury markers, watch the footage. The video played. Diane Pritchard herself approaching, all smiles and deference. Good afternoon, welcome to Maison Étoile, we're so glad you're here. May I offer you champagne while you browse? Amara clicked again. Another photo, business casual, designer handbag, but understated jewelry. Visit 2. Different sales associate, but similar treatment. Excellent service. No questions about payment capability. Click. Another visit, another version of Amara. Each time, the treatment correlated directly with visible wealth signals. Today was visit number 7, the control test. Same person, same credit card, same ability to purchase. The only variables, my clothing and my visible pregnancy. She looked directly at Diane. You failed spectacularly. Montclair's lawyer leaned forward. Mrs. Volkoff, are you saying you deliberately entrapped our employee? I documented publicly observable behavior, Amara corrected. Your employee chose her actions freely. I simply provided different context to measure consistency. She advanced to the next slide. 3 locations passed my audits. They treated every version of me with equal professionalism. 4 locations failed, but your flagship set records. The spreadsheet showed metrics: average wait time before greeting, number of surveillance glances, payment verification requests, quality of products shown. The disparities were stark. 67% of black customers at this location reported heightened surveillance versus 12% of white customers. Average service wait time, 4 minutes for white customers, 11 minutes for black customers. Discretionary security calls, 89% involved people of color. She paused, letting the numbers settle. And here's what you don't know yet. I sent my complete preliminary report to Victor's investment board 72 hours ago. They've been reviewing it. Today was simply final confirmation. Victor spoke for the first time since they'd entered the room. The board convened an emergency meeting at 2:30 p.m. during Diane's performance. They were voting. Montclair's face had gone from gray to white. Voting on what? Whether to continue our partnership with Maison Étoile? Victor pulled out his phone, showed a time-stamped email. The decision was made at 2:52 p.m., 5 minutes before my wife was assaulted. The vote was to terminate the lease and divest from your parent company's stock holdings. Montclair struggled for words. That's $340 million in real estate value, our flagship location. Yes. Over one employee's actions? Amara's expression didn't change. Over systemic failure, I gave your company 6 months of documentation, quarterly reports about this location's complaint patterns. Your HR department received 14 formal complaints about this store in 3 years, all dismissed as anecdotal. She opened another file. I'm not just a customer, Mr. Montclair. I'm a corporate attorney. Harvard Law, 2012. I specialized in civil rights enforcement and Title II public accommodation law. I know exactly what constitutes illegal discrimination. The room went very quiet. I met Victor 9 years ago when I was doing pro bono work for a housing discrimination case. His father was a Ukrainian refugee who faced subtle redlining in the 1990s. We built our holdings with one principle: everyone gets treated fairly, or you don't get to operate on our property. Victor added, we own 47 properties across 8 states. Every lease has anti-discrimination clauses we actually enforce. Your company generates $14 million annually from this location. You'll survive its loss. But the people Diane targeted, they might not recover from this kind of treatment. Montclair's lawyer tried again. Even if we accept your audit methodology, one incident isn't one incident. Amara pulled up another file. I've been collecting testimonials. 47 people have contacted me in the past 6 months, all describing similar experiences at this location. I have emails, social media posts, reviews, patterns spanning 3 years. She turned to Diane directly for the first time. You didn't just humiliate me today. You risked my daughter's health. Stress-induced complications could have triggered early labor. 43% of Black infant mortality is linked to maternal stress during pregnancy. Those aren't abstract statistics. That's my child, Diane's attorney whispered urgently in her ear. Diane's face crumpled. I'm sorry, Diane managed. You didn't mean to get caught, Amara interrupted quietly. There's a difference. Montclair was calculating now, trying to find an angle. Mrs. Volkov, what would it take to reconsider? We can fire Diane immediately, implement training. I'm not interested in firing one person. Amara closed her laptop. I'm interested in systematic reform. The decision to terminate your lease stands. However, she exchanged glances with Victor. We're willing to discuss phased implementation if you agree to third-party oversight, complete operational audit, AI-monitored customer service metrics, public quarterly reports, and your executive bonuses get tied to equity compliance. That's extremely invasive. That's accountability, Amara said. You respond to profit margins. I'm making discrimination unprofitable. Your choice, accept oversight and keep most of your locations, or fight it and lose everything. Outside, the sun was beginning to set over Manhattan. The live stream had reached 47 million views. #Justice for Amara was trending nationally. 3 major news networks had picked up the story. Diane sat in her corner, career ending in real time, wondering how someone she'd dismissed so easily had held all the power from the start. Volkov Group headquarters occupied the 47th floor of a midtown tower Victor's father had purchased in 1998 with refugee determination and leveraged risk. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan like a conquered territory. In the main conference room, 8 board members sat around African blackwood table worth more than most houses. Pierre Montclair appeared via video call from the Maison Étoile Emergency Command Center, his Paris headquarters visible behind him. Dawn was breaking there. He hadn't slept. Victor stood at the head of the table, Amara seated to his right. A digital display covered the far wall, currently showing Maison Étoile's stock price declining in real time as the story metastasized across social media. Mr. Montclair, Victor began, his Russian accent sharpening consonants, we are past apologies. I want numbers only. He gestured. Amara's 847-page audit report appeared on screen, 6 months of meticulous documentation reduced to devastating data visualizations. Page 47, Amara said. Customer experience metrics broken down by demographic. The graph was damning. Black customers reported heightened surveillance at a rate of 67% versus 12% for white customers. Average wait time before acknowledgement, 4 minutes for white shoppers, 11 for Black, 9 for Latina. Security calls flagged as discretionary rather than policy mandated. 89% involve people of color. Page 118, she continued. Sales conversion rates by floor manager. When Diane Pritchard worked the floor, conversion dropped to 31%. Other managers averaged 67%. The lost revenue over 3 years, $4.2 million. She wasn't just racist, Victor said flatly. She was expensive. Montclair's face on the screen had gone waxy. These statistics, we had no systematic knowledge. Your HR department received 14 formal complaints about this location in 36 months. Amara's voice remained clinical. I have the emails. Everyone dismissed as anecdotal or unverifiable. You had knowledge. You chose inaction. Rachel Kim, board member and investor representative, leaned forward. Mr. Montclair, let's discuss liability exposure. Mrs. Volkov was assaulted while pregnant. New York law is explicit about assault against expectant mothers. The legal counsel on Amara's left, a woman named Stephanie Chen with 20 years in civil rights litigation, opened her tablet. Assault in the 3rd degree, but with aggravating factors. Victim's pregnancy, racial animus evidenced by people like you statement, public setting. We're looking at $5, $15 million in civil liability. That's before punitive damages. The viral video has 47 million views, Rachel continued. Our crisis management consultants estimate brand damage at $80 million minimum. Lost partnerships, boycotts, customer attrition. Your Gen Z market share is already fragile. This demographic is 73% more likely to boycott over social justice issues according to McKinsey's 2024 Consumer Behavior Study. Montclair's lawyer, a distinguished man with silver hair, tried to interject. Even accepting the audit data, one employee's actions don't necessarily indicate systematic failure, Amara finished. Let me show you systematic. She pulled up internal training materials, Maison Etoile's own documents. Your customer service protocols include clientele assessment training. Direct quote, identify high-value customers within 30 seconds of entry. The assessment criteria include clothing brands, accessories, grooming, and, this is my favorite, comportment. She let that word hang in the air. Comportment is code. Everyone in this room knows it. You trained employees to make snap judgments based on appearance, then you acted surprised when those judgments skewed racist. Victor placed a document on the table. Our terms, non-negotiable. Stephanie read them aloud. Point 1. Immediate termination of Diane Pritchard. Forfeiture of all severance. Industry-wide notification to Luxury Retail Association. Point 2. 30-day store closure for mandatory equity training. All staff, including corporate trainers. Point 3. Implementation of AI-monitored customer interaction system within 60 days. AI monitoring? Montclair looked ill. Cameras with audio analysis, Victor explained. Tracks wait times, service quality, keyword flags. Any phrase like, people like you, can you afford? Are you sure you're in the right place? Automatic alert to corporate compliance. Monthly reports published publicly. Point 4, Stephanie continued. Independent review board established within 90 days. 5 members, majority BIPOC representation, quarterly public audits. Point 5, executive compensation restructuring. 40% of C-suite bonuses tied directly to equity metrics. Montclair's face went from pale to flushed. You're asking us to tie executive pay to diversity statistics? Diversity outcomes, Amara corrected. Hiring is one metric. Customer satisfaction by demographic is another. Complaint resolution speed, service parity. You'll hit targets or lose compensation, 40%. Rachel pulled up financial models. For context, Mr. Montclair, your CEO bonus last year was $5.2 million. 40% is $2.08 million. That's what equity compliance is worth to your personal bottom line. This is extortion. Victor's expression didn't change. This is consequence. Your alternative? We terminate your lease immediately, file civil suit, and activate reputation clauses in 6 other properties where your brand operates. You lose this flagship location plus Chicago, Boston, Miami, Seattle, San Diego, and Dallas. Total annual revenue impact, $340 million. He leaned forward slightly. Or you implement reforms, keep most locations, and rebuild credibility. Your choice takes 30 seconds. The boardroom went silent except for the hum of climate control and the distant sound of Manhattan traffic 47 floors below. Montclair's lawyer whispered urgently to him, hand over the microphone. Montclair's head shook, more whispering. Finally, Montclair spoke. What about criminal charges against Diane? Can those be managed? No. Amara's response was immediate. That's between her and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I'm told they're very interested. The video evidence is compelling. Hate crime enhancement is possible if prosecutors establish racial animus. She's a single mother, 15 years of service, and I'm a pregnant woman she struck while discriminating against me. Amara's calm finally showed a hairline crack. Not anger, but something more fundamental. Exhaustion with having to explain basic human dignity. Diane made choices. Choices have outcomes. I'm not responsible for protecting her from consequences. Stephanie placed another document in front of the camera. This is the implementation contract, already drafted. It includes timeline requirements, penalty clauses for non-compliance, and third-party audit provisions. Sign now and reforms begin tomorrow. Delay and we file suit simultaneously with lease termination. Victor checked his watch. You have 2 minutes to decide. Then I have a pregnant wife to take home. Montclair looked at his lawyer, his board members visible in the background of his video feed, his company's stock price still dropping. The mathematics were brutal. Lose everything fighting or lose some executive bonuses implementing change. If we sign, the lease termination is rescinded. Phased implementation, Victor said. You keep this location on probationary status, quarterly reviews. First failure, we revisit termination. You get one chance. I need board approval. You have 90 seconds. Montclair's feed went to muted discussion. Amara could see the calculation happening in real time. Pride versus profit, reputation versus revenue. The decision was never really in doubt. The video unmuted. We'll sign. Documents appeared on screen, electronic signatures flowing through DocuSign with the speed of desperation. Timestamp, 6:47 p.m., 4 hours since the slap. An entire corporate structure restructured in the time it takes most people to watch a movie. Victor stood. Statement releases in 20 minutes. Volkov Group does not tolerate discrimination. We enforce consequences. Your PR team coordinates with ours. No independent messaging. The video call ended. Amara closed her laptop, one hand moving to her belly where their daughter pressed against her ribs. I need to lie down. My blood pressure is still elevated. Car's waiting, Victor said softly. Then to the board. Meeting adjourned. As they left, Rachel Kim spoke quietly. That was the most expensive slap in retail history. No, Amara replied. Just the first one that got properly invoiced. 3 months later, Diane Pritchard stood in Manhattan criminal court accepting a plea agreement. The charges, assault in the 3rd degree, aggravated harassment, could have meant jail time. Her lawyer had negotiated 200 hours community service at a women's shelter in the Bronx, 2 years probation, mandatory anger management counseling, and a $15,000 fine. The criminal case was the least of her problems. Maison Etoile had terminated her employment for cause, which meant forfeiting her vested pension, $340,000 accumulated over 15 years. The Luxury Retail Association had quietly distributed her name with a note. Not eligible for rehire. She'd applied to 43 positions in 3 months, 2 interviews, 0 offers. The civil lawsuit Amara filed sought $2, $7 million. Medical costs for pregnancy complications triggered by stress, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Diane's homeowner's insurance would cover some. The rest would follow her for decades. Her public statement, released through her attorney, read exactly like every corporate non-apology ever drafted. I recognize that my actions were inappropriate and did not reflect my true values. I am committed to personal growth and understanding. I have begun counseling to address my unconscious biases. The comments section was merciless. Former co-workers emerged with their own stories. A black sales associate who'd left after 2 years, she called me uppity for asking about manager training opportunities. This isn't new behavior, it's finally documented behavior. Diane's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all deactivated after the death threats became overwhelming. Her teenage daughter had to switch schools. Her ex-husband filed for full custody, citing the assault conviction. The touching stories people shared weren't about Diane's suffering. They were about the countless others she'd dismissed over 15 years. She became what she'd never imagined, a cautionary tale in HR presentations nationwide. Meanwhile, Maison Etoile underwent forced metamorphosis. The flagship location closed for exactly 30 days. All 127 employees, from sales associates to security to management, attended mandatory equity training. Not the usual 2-hour corporate checkbox exercise. Comprehensive, uncomfortable, 6 hours daily immersion. The curriculum included Harvard's implicit association test, forcing participants to confront their unconscious biases. Historical modules on redlining, retail discrimination, and shopping while black documentation. Role-play scenarios with diverse actors playing customers. Every interaction recorded and reviewed. Neuroscience presentations explaining how the brain makes snap judgments in 7 seconds and how those judgments encode societal prejudices. On day 12, 5 employees quit. I didn't sign up for this scrutiny, one wrote in her resignation email. HR didn't try to convince them to stay. The AI system, branded as Equity Eye, was installed during the closure. Cameras with sophisticated audio analysis tracked every customer interaction. Who got greeted first? Service duration by demographic. Tone analysis on associate speech patterns. Security call frequency and correlation with customer characteristics. The dashboard fed real-time data to corporate headquarters. Statistical anomalies triggered alerts. Why did associate hash 4782 take 3 times longer to serve black customers? Why did security get called 6 times in one shift? 5 involving people of color. The system wasn't punitive by default. It flagged patterns for human review. But the transparency was radical. Monthly reports published openly showed aggregate metrics. Wait times, satisfaction scores, complaint resolution speed, all broken down by demographic data customers voluntarily provided. The first month's results were revealing. 12 more employees self-selected out. "Big Brother monitoring isn't what I signed up for," one wrote in an exit interview. But complaint rates dropped 64%. Black customer satisfaction jumped from 2.1 out of 5 stars to 4.3. The gap in sales conversion rates, which had shown white customers converting at nearly double the rate of black customers, essentially disappeared. The Independent Review Board convened for its first quarterly assessment 90 days post-incident. 5 members, a civil rights attorney, a retail psychologist, a former retail executive who'd built inclusive hiring programs, a sociology professor specializing in systemic racism, and a community organizer from Harlem. 3 were black, 1 Latina, 1 white. Their 47-page report was published in full. Key findings: 89% of staff now passed bias scenario testing, compared to 34% baseline. Wait time disparities had been eliminated. Security calls dropped 71% overall with no demographic skew detected. Customer composition had diversified. 34% more BIPOC customers reported feeling safe shopping there. But the report also noted, compliance is not the same as culture change. We observe adherence to rules, not necessarily transformation of values. Continued monitoring essential. The executive compensation restructuring hit harder than anticipated. 3 vice presidents missed diversity hiring targets for their regions. Combined loss, $890,000 in bonus money. CEO Montclair's own compensation was docked 40%, $2.10 million, until full compliance was certified across all North American locations. The financial pain created rapid culture shift. When executives' children's private school tuition depends on equity metrics, equity becomes prioritized. Other retailers noticed. Within 6 months, 47 companies in Volkov Group's property portfolio proactively requested Equity Eye installation. Not from altruism, from fear. Nobody wanted to be the next viral disaster. The system's developer licensed the technology to 60 additional retailers outside Volkov's holdings. A new job category emerged: Equity Auditor. Universities began offering graduate certificates in bias detection and systemic reform. Columbia Business School added strategic equity auditing to its curriculum, using Amara's methodology as the core case study. Harvard Law created a course called Corporate Leverage for Civil Rights Enforcement. Amara was invited to consult for a dozen Fortune 500 companies. She declined every offer. "I'm about to have a baby," she told one persistent CEO. "But my methodology is published. My data is public. You don't need me. You need commitment." In an interview with NPR, Victor offered his perspective. "My father came from Soviet Ukraine, where being the wrong ethnicity could destroy you. We thought America was different, that merit mattered, that money made you equal. My wife taught me that sight is not enough. We must build systems to correct our own blindness. This is not charity. This is capitalism that actually works." The system wasn't perfect. No system is. But it was accountable, transparent, measurable. And it started because one woman refused to accept that her skin color and pregnancy determined her worth. 6 months after the slap heard around social media, Amara sat in the nursery of their Brighton Beach home, her daughter Svetlana asleep against her chest. 3 months old, with Victor's dark hair and Amara's deep brown eyes, perfect tiny fingers wrapped around her mother's thumb. The room was a study in cultural fusion. Eastern European folk art, intricate Ukrainian embroidery hung beside prints from the Harlem Renaissance. A mobile of handmade Russian nesting dolls spun slowly above a crib draped in kente cloth patterns. On one wall, framed, a New York Times headline from 2 months prior, "How One Woman's Audit Transformed Luxury Retail." Beneath it, Maison Étoile's 6-month equity report. Every target exceeded. Every metric improved. The document represented something rarer than profit, proof that change was possible. Downstairs, Sunday dinner was being prepared. Victor's parents, his father still speaking heavily accented English after 36 years in America, worked alongside Amara's parents, who'd driven up from Mississippi. Borscht and collard greens would share the table, pierogi and cornbread, generations and cultures braiding together in the steam and laughter of a shared meal. Victor appeared in the doorway, careful not to wake Svetlana. "Your mother wants to know if you're ready to eat." 5 minutes. Amara looked down at her sleeping daughter. "People keep asking if I've forgiven Diane." "Have you?" "It's the wrong question." Amara's voice was soft, thoughtful. "I didn't do this for revenge. I did it so the next pregnant black woman can shop without her blood pressure spiking, so the woman after her doesn't have to document discrimination with a body camera and a law degree to be believed." She stood slowly, settling Svetlana into her crib. The baby stirred but didn't wake. Diane was a symptom. The system was the disease. You don't cure diseases by hating individual cells, you change the entire body. Victor moved beside her, both of them watching their daughter sleep. "My father says you remind him of the dissidents in the old country, the ones who documented everything because they knew someday someone would have to listen." "Those are real-life stories that changed nations," Amara said. "I just changed one store, then another, but it was more than stores. Equity Eye was now installed in 200-plus retail locations across 19 brands. Discrimination complaints in participating stores had dropped 78%. Customer demographic diversity had increased 34%. More BIPOC customers reported feeling safe, welcome, seen. Employee whistleblower reports had jumped 340%, which meant the system was working. People were speaking up, and companies were being forced to listen. 4 copycat lawsuits had been filed using Amara's audit methodology. 3 states had introduced Retail Accountability Acts, requiring bias training and monitoring. 67 Fortune 500 companies had preemptively audited their customer service practices, terrified of becoming the next viral catastrophe. Universities were graduating their first cohort of certified equity auditors. A job that hadn't existed a year ago now had a professional association and a median salary of $87,000. And it started with documentation, with one woman refusing to accept that dignity was negotiable. Downstairs, family waited. But first, Amara pulled out her phone. She opened the camera, looked directly into the lens. If you've experienced discrimination in retail, healthcare, housing, anywhere, document it. Use your phone. Record interactions legally. Write down names, times, every detail. One incident feels personal. Patterns become proof. Proof becomes power. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Share your black stories in the comments, not for voyeurism but for visibility. Every touching story adds to the data. Data drives change. These life stories, they matter. They accumulate. They become undeniable. Subscribe if you believe documentation defeats discrimination. Share this with someone who's been told they're too sensitive about bias. They're not. They're observant. They're collecting evidence. And to anyone in a position like Diane's, you have a choice right now. Today, before the camera catches you, before your moment goes viral. Choose differently. Not because someone might secretly be powerful, because everyone deserves basic human dignity. No exceptions. No assessments. No people like you. She ended the recording but didn't post it yet. From downstairs, laughter, the clatter of plates, her father's deep voice telling a story, Victor's mother's accented interjection, the sounds of family of different worlds choosing to become one world. Amara picked up Svetlana, who was just starting to wake. Together they went downstairs to join the people who loved them. The work would continue tomorrow. Tonight there was borscht and cornbread, and that was enough.